He walked in. My vigilant eyes immediately framed everything. The baggy hoodie, the oversized backpack, the way he actively avoided eye contact. More than a customer, he was a risk. I was wrong, terribly wrong, and that mistake cost me everything, yet in the end, it gave me far more. The fluorescent lights of daily deals hummed their usual dreary economic tune, casting a sterile, unrelenting glare on the polished linoleum floor. It was a Tuesday late afternoon, the hour of the after-work rush when patience was thin and petty theft spiked. Ethan Riley, 25, the store's shift manager, stood behind the customer service desk, his posture rigid, his gaze sweeping the aisles with the practiced, weary skepticism of a man perpetually waiting for something bad to happen. He'd worked at this store for 7 years, starting as a high school kid stocking shelves, and in his tenure, he'd seen enough shoplifting, enough desperate grabbing of essentials to cement a cynical worldview. Survival here meant profiling, a brutal, unspoken rule of retail in a neighborhood clinging to the edge of gentrification. The automatic doors slid open with a puff of cool air, and that's when Ethan's internal alarm system went from a quiet buzz to a high-pitched whine. The subject was a young man, undeniably black, who looked barely out of his teens. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, wearing a dark gray, heavy-duty hoodie with the hood loosely pulled up over a baseball cap, a classic combination for obscuring one's face from the security cameras positioned overhead. He carried a large black military-style backpack slung over one shoulder, its material thick enough to muffle any security tags. His denim jeans were slightly ripped, and his sneakers were scuffed, projecting an image of being low on funds, yet he moved with an almost unnerving calm, a deceptive confidence that Ethan read instantly as practiced stealth. Rule number 1. Etched into the store's unofficial training manual for high-risk customers: the eyes tell the story. This kid's eyes darted, not nervously but efficiently. He didn't look at the displays. He looked at the sight lines, the exits, and the locations of the uniformed staff. He bypassed the tempting seasonal displays near the entrance, the cheap candy and impulse buys, and immediately headed toward aisle 5, health and beauty, the most frequently stolen section. Expensive, easy to conceal, and highly sought after on the street. Ethan felt the familiar cold knot tighten in his stomach. He signaled subtly to Brenda, the cashier on register 2, with a quick flick of his chin, the silent retail code for watch this one. He then pulled out his radio, kept it low to his chest, and began a slow walk around the perimeter, moving with the pretense of checking expiration dates on the energy drink cooler. Control to back office, he murmured into the radio, his voice barely audible. We have a potential. Heading aisle 5. Hoodie, backpack, monitor and advise. In the back office, the dull, grainy monitor footage became the center of the universe for a moment. Ethan's narrative had already been written. This kid is here to steal. Probably razors, maybe some name-brand lotion, anything to pawn. This wasn't racism, Ethan told himself. It was data. It was the pattern. It was his job to protect the meager profits of daily deals. Profits that kept his lights on. He entered aisle 4, feigning an intense interest in a stack of discounted paper towels, giving him a clear view down aisle 5. The young man, Marcus M.J. Jones, was standing in front of the high-end hair care products. He reached out, not with a quick grab, but a deliberate touch, picking up a large bottle of high-quality shampoo, a $15 item. He didn't check the price. He just examined the label with a strange, contemplative look. Then, with a practiced, almost professional movement that made Ethan's heart sink with confirmation, MJ slightly opened the zipper of his backpack, slipped the bottle inside, and zipped it up in one fluid motion. No hesitation. No checking if anyone saw. Just clean, quick execution confirmed. He's boosted it. Ethan's hand instinctively tightened around his radio. He needed definitive proof before he could approach, but the sight of the hidden item was proof enough for his professional paranoia. He remembered the last time he'd hesitated. $300 worth of infant formula walked out the door. He wasn't going to let that happen again. MJ moved on to the pharmacy section, looking at pain relievers. He grabbed a small bottle of aspirin, then seemed to change his mind, placing it back, only to quickly replace it with a larger, more expensive bottle of a different brand. He looked around again, that efficient, cool scan, and then did it again, the quick, smooth placement of the bottle into a different compartment of the backpack. 2 items, secured. Ethan gritted his teeth. He knew the protocol. Approach calmly, request to check the bag after they leave the immediate area of the store, and if they resist, call the police. But this kid was big, and Ethan was tired of being the small-time security guard. He decided to stick closer, to make his presence known without an immediate confrontation. Hoping to deter any further attempts, he walked past the entrance to aisle 5, loudly adjusting a stack of canned goods, Making sure the clack of the metal against the shelf was enough to break the silent focus of a thief. MJ didn't flinch. He just casually looked up, made fleeting, dismissive eye contact with Ethan. A look that said, "I see you, but you can't stop me," and then walked straight toward the grocery section. Wait, groceries? Thieves don't usually steal bread and milk. The deviation confused Ethan, but only momentarily. Maybe he was trying to look legitimate, building a small decoy purchase to distract the staff at checkout. Ethan followed, keeping his distance, his mind already composing the police report, the mental exhaustion of dealing with another petty criminal already setting in. He wished, just once, that things weren't exactly what they looked like. But they always were. He was about to learn just how wrong always could be. MJ, the young man in the oversized hoodie, was now deep in the grocery aisles, a zone that jarred violently with Ethan's pre-written script of a typical shoplifter. Shoplifters sought high-value, easy-to-fence items. They didn't linger over discounted boxes of cereal or compare prices on dried pasta. Yet MJ had veered away from the health and beauty section, a move Ethan initially dismissed as an attempt to shop his way out of suspicion. He needed to be closer, to observe the next move that would confirm his initial, damning assessment. Ethan abandoned the pretense of checking the drink cooler and casually drifted toward the baking aisle, which offered a vantage point into the next 3 rows. MJ was there, but he wasn't just grabbing random food. He was moving with a strange, almost methodical purpose, filling his cart not with junk food but with large, industrial-sized containers, a 10-pound bag of rice, a massive jar of peanut butter, and several cans of black beans and kidney beans. These were not items for a single college student living off ramen. These were supplies for a small army, or perhaps for a very large, struggling family. The internal conflict within Ethan flared up. The rational, trained part of his brain screamed, "He's a thief. He hid the shampoo and aspirin. This is just a smokescreen." The other, weaker, more human part whispered, "What if this is for real? What if I'm wrong?" But the pressure to be right, the memory of his manager's reprimands after past losses, was a heavy cloak of professional anxiety. As MJ reached for a shelf of canned soup, his large backpack momentarily shifted, and Ethan was certain he saw the outline of the expensive shampoo bottle pressing against the thin nylon. The sight galvanized him, shutting down the doubts. He was right. This whole grocery haul was merely cover for the 2 high-value items already concealed. He decided to close the distance. He walked down the adjacent aisle, pretending to check inventory on soup stock. Positioned just 1 shelf away from MJ was now holding his cell phone, checking something on the screen while staring intensely at the soup labels. He looked agitated, running a hand over his trimmed hair. He tapped the screen repeatedly, then sighed in apparent frustration. Ethan leaned in, hoping to catch a stray word, to hear a snippet of a conversation with an accomplice. He heard only the muffled sound of a video call, too faint to discern. The sight of the phone amplified Ethan's suspicion, coordinating the operation, perhaps confirming the getaway. Then the sudden, unexpected complication. From the opposite end of the aisle, Florence, a frail, elderly woman in her late 70s, navigated her slow, unsteady shopping cart around the corner. She was a regular, known for taking her time and always buying the small single-serving containers of cottage cheese. Distracted perhaps by the weight of the day or by her poor eyesight, she clipped the corner of MJ's cart. The collision wasn't violent, but it was enough to knock a few jars of pickles from her own cart, sending them shattering on the floor with a sharp, sickening crack. The noise was loud in the sterile silence of the aisle. Ethan instinctively tensed, ready to leap in and manage the mess, but his eyes were glued to MJ. This was the moment of truth. A thief cornered or startled often bolts or turns aggressive. MJ didn't bolt. He dropped his phone, which clattered harmlessly on a stack of flour bags, and immediately turned to the elderly woman. His large frame, which had seemed so menacing moments before, bent instantly. "Oh, excuse me, ma'am. Are you all right?" MJ's voice, when he finally spoke, was deep but surprisingly soft and laced with genuine concern. He didn't look at the broken glass, or the mess, or even at Ethan, who was frozen in place. He focused entirely on Florence. "Oh dear, my glasses," she mumbled, clearly flustered. "I didn't see you, dear. I'm so sorry about the mess." "Don't worry about the mess at all," MJ replied, his hands hovering, careful not to touch her without permission. "Let me just make sure you didn't get any glass on you." He gently checked the hem of her coat and her shoes. He then knelt down, despite the risk of kneeling near broken glass, and retrieved her fallen phone and keys. Ethan watched the exchange with a strange, stomach-churning mix of professional annoyance and personal confusion. This was not the behavior of a hardened thief. A thief's priority is escape and self-preservation, not customer service. The kindness was genuine. It wasn't a performance for the cameras. It was a deep-rooted, spontaneous human reaction. MJ carefully guided the old woman to the dry section of the aisle, away from the shattered glass and the leaking pickle brine. "You stay right here, ma'am. I'll let a staff member know to clean this up. Please don't move." He glanced up, finally making direct eye contact with Ethan. A fleeting, neutral look that held no aggression, only acknowledgement. Ethan jolted into his official role, quickly radioed for a cleanup crew. He stepped toward the spill, placing a cautionary cone. MJ retrieved his shopping cart, now fully loaded with massive sacks of food, and without another word, headed toward the front registers. The distraction had been brief, but intense. It introduced a jarring note of complexity into the simple binary narrative Ethan had constructed. But as Ethan watched MJ's broad back disappear toward the checkout lanes, his gaze fixed on the bulge of the backpack, the undeniable, hidden proof of the concealed items, he forcibly silenced the rising tide of doubt. It's an act. A good one, but an act nonetheless. A smooth operator knows how to blend in. The shampoo is still in the bag. Ethan shook his head, clearing the lingering scent of pickle vinegar. He had a job to do, and sentimentality had no place in loss prevention. He would call security to confirm the items, then position himself near the front. The confrontation was now inevitable. He had his proof, and the show was almost over. Ethan didn't wait for the cleanup crew to finish mopping up the last traces of pickle brine. The incident with Ba Florence had done its job. It had slowed him down, muddied his focus, and introduced a variable of human kindness that threatened to dismantle his entire professional logic. He needed to re-establish the facts, to prove that his cynical, data-driven assessment was right, and that the moment of goodwill was just a clever distraction. He rushed back to the small, windowless security room tucked away near the loading dock, leaving his subordinate to handle the mess and the flustered elderly customer. The room smelled faintly of stale coffee and ozone from the humming servers. "Did you catch that?" Ethan demanded, not bothering with a greeting, to Dave, the part-time night stalker who often doubled as the surveillance monitor during the late shift. Dave, a community college dropout perpetually looking bored, simply gestured toward the wall of monitors, his eyes fixated on a game on his phone. "The old lady spill? Yeah, man, that kid's got moves. Gotta give him that. He went straight to the checkout after." "No, not the spill. The grab!" Ethan snapped, pulling up the console chair and wrenching the mouse from Dave's hand. He scrubbed the timeline back, focusing the main screen on aisle 5. Start from when he entered the health and beauty. Watch his hands. Watch the bag. Ethan zoomed the camera feed, camera 14, strategically placed above the high-value shelf, until MJ's figure filled the screen, slightly distorted and grainy, but undeniably clear in his actions. Playback began. The timestamp in the corner ticked slowly. MJ appears tall and focused, his hood low. He glances up, straight at the camera lens, an almost defiant, fleeting acknowledgement that sent a fresh chill down Ethan's spine. He knows where the cameras are. He reaches for the shampoo. A large, specialized bottle of organic, sulfate-free cleanser, retailing for $14.99, a frequent target because of its high resale value. He lifts it, rotates it once, and then, without looking away from the label, the subtle maneuver. His right hand drops. The bag is stabilized with his elbow. The zipper opens just enough, and the bottle slides inside. The zip closes with an almost imperceptible flick of the wrist. Fluid. Perfect. The definitive proof. Ethan leaned closer, his breathing shallow. See it? No way that's a purchase intent. No one puts a large glass bottle in a backpack that quickly unless they're concealing it. He fast-forwarded the feed by 30 seconds, stopping the moment MJ reaches the pain reliever section. MJ hesitates, puts down the aspirin, and picks up the $12 bottle of extra-strength ibuprofen. Again, the practiced efficiency. A slight lean, a barely audible shush of fabric, and the item is gone into a different pocket of the same massive backpack. 2 items, Ethan stated, his voice a low, grim confirmation. 27 worth of merchandise, sealed and concealed. That's enough for a police call right there. Forget the groceries. This is textbook loss prevention. I was right. The footage served as a powerful, necessary dose of cold reality, washing away the confusing warmth of MJ's exchange with Ba Florence. The kindness was just an elaborate mask. The stolen items were the unvarnished truth. The camera didn't lie. The video was objective evidence, stripping the young man of his momentary saintliness and casting him back into the role of the suspect. This is the curse of the camera, Ethan thought bitterly. It sees everything, but understands nothing. It captures actions without intent. Yet for Ethan, the action was the intent. He had seen too many smooth operators use elaborate misdirection. Maybe the large grocery haul was an investment, a few $100s in paid merchandise to protect the $24 of stolen goods from being spotted by the cashier. It was a sophisticated gambit, Ethan rewound the footage one more time, reviewing the moment MJ first entered the store. He watched the set of his shoulders, the way he moved, every detail now interpreted through the filter of confirmed thief. He had been suspicious from the jump, and the camera had validated his professional profiling, his snap judgment. All right, Dave, monitor him at the registers. Don't engage. Just tell me when he initiates payment. I'm going to go to the front. I need to be there for the checkout process. Ethan emphasized the last words with a cold finality. He printed 2 stills, one showing the shampoo being concealed and one showing the ibuprofen. He tucked the small black and white photos into his apron pocket. Armed with visual proof and his shattered doubts safely tucked away, Ethan left the back office. His heart was hammering a relentless beat against his ribs, not from fear, but from the grim certainty of a necessary confrontation. He felt a fleeting pity for the kid, so smart, so composed, yet resorting to this. But pity wouldn't pay the store's bills or save his job. He was heading out to meet the thief he'd already convicted. Ethan emerged from the back office, the cool certainty of the security footage acting like a shield against the unsettling confusion caused by Boff Lawrence. He smoothed his apron, adjusted the tag that read Shift Manager, and took his position at the end of Register 3, ostensibly straightening a display of candy bars. In reality, he was planting himself directly in the line of fire. MJ, the young man now formally labeled as suspect in Ethan's mind, wheeled his cart into the queue for Register 1, manned by the newest cashier, a nervous teenager named Kevin. The sight of the cart was jarring. It was overloaded, not just with the large strategic items Ethan had observed, but with a surprising variety of general household goods: 2 large jugs of milk, several cartons of eggs, a stack of paper towels, dog food, and even a small birthday cake mix kit. The total volume of groceries was easily over $400 worth. The sheer scale of the purchase didn't ease Ethan's suspicion. It only deepened his cynicism. An elaborate smokescreen, he concluded. A $450 decoy for $27 worth of stolen goods. He's either incredibly bold or part of a very well-funded operation. The air in the checkout lane thickened instantly, though only Ethan and Kevin felt the oppressive weight of the impending moment. Kevin, oblivious to the high-stakes surveillance, scanned the first few bulky items. Beep, beep, beep. The total began to climb, flashing brightly on the display. Ethan moved closer, stepping away from the candy display and sliding silently to the bagging area near Register 1. He gave Kevin a tight, focused nod, a signal that meant, "I'm here, I'm watching, don't mess up." Kevin, already stressed by the size of the order, just swallowed hard and continued scanning. MJ stood patiently, his back to Ethan, offering no indication of nerves. He pulled out a reusable canvas shopping bag, an environmentally conscious choice that felt strangely at odds with the act of thievery. He began placing the bulkier items back into the bag as Kevin scanned them, methodical and calm. Ethan's gaze, however, was fixed on the backpack resting at MJ's feet, its straps partially visible beneath the cart. He could see the bulge, the definitive, undeniable evidence printed on the stills tucked into his pocket. The scanning continued for what felt like an eternity. Every beep felt like a countdown. Ethan mentally rehearsed his approach. "Excuse me, sir. Before we finalize the transaction, I need to check the contents of your backpack. It's store policy." He decided he wouldn't even mention the items. He'd just state the policy and wait for the inevitable resistance, or worse, the sudden sprint for the exit. Then, a small detail made Ethan momentarily freeze. MJ reached down, not for his wallet, but for his phone, which he had placed on the small counter beside the conveyor belt. He wasn't checking texts or social media. He was looking at a digital list. He checked off several items on the list with a determined nod, confirming every item scanned matched his inventory. He was managing this purchase with the precision of a professional buyer, not the haste of a thief. The scanning stopped. Kevin, beads of sweat forming on his brow, looked up at the total, $487.65, a hefty sum for a Tuesday afternoon. He announced the number with a voice that cracked slightly. MJ looked up, meeting Kevin's eyes with a warm, genuine smile. "Looks like I got everything. Thank you. I appreciate the hard work." Ethan held his breath. This was it. Payment, the moment of commitment, the point of no return. The exact time Ethan had planned to initiate the confrontation, to stop the sale and demand the backpack be checked, minimizing the loss of his time and the goods. MJ reached into the back pocket of his jeans. He pulled out a black leather wallet, thick and clearly expensive. He flipped it open. Ethan leaned forward, eyes narrowed, ready for the flimsy wad of bills or the prepaid debit card he associated with this type of high-risk customer. What MJ pulled out, however, was not cash. It was a card the color of night, sleek and heavy, A matte finish, metallic black card, a premium, invitation-only credit card, often signaling vast resources or high net worth. The sight of the card, a card that screamed affluence and responsibility, was a physical jolt to Ethan. It did not compute. A person wealthy enough to possess a card like that, a person who could easily afford the entire $487 transaction, does not risk a felony for a $15 bottle of shampoo. The logic that had been so airtight just moments ago in the security room began to crumble under the harsh fluorescent light of the checkout lane. MJ handed the card to a slightly awestruck Kevin. "Credit, please." Ethan's rehearsed speech died on his tongue. He was paralyzed, his hand hovering over the radio, his mind a whirlwind of contradictory signals. He still had the proof, the picture of the hidden items. But the sight of that card, the calm demeanor, and the massive legitimate purchase threw the entire context of his suspicion into doubt. He decided, in a split second of professional hesitation, not to act yet. He needed one more piece of data to reconcile the stolen items with the black card. He needed to know why. Kevin, the nervous cashier, fumbled the metallic black card slightly, its weight and status clearly making an impression. He swiped it through the terminal. The machine responded with a swift, confident beep, followed by the screen message, "Transaction approved." Total $487.65. The confirmation was an ice pick to the heart of Ethan's conviction. His theory, that this was a sophisticated thief attempting a minor larceny, was now critically damaged. A person who risks their reputation and a potential criminal record for petty theft does not possess the kind of financial instrument that suggests substantial wealth and responsibility. A charge of nearly $500 had just cleared without a hitch. Ethan, his body still tense, took a single, slow step back into the shadow of the cigarette display, trying to appear nonchalant while he desperately pieced together a new narrative. He looked at the printed photo in his pocket, the clear image of the shampoo bottle sliding into the bag. The photo was undeniable. The black card was undeniable. The two facts existed in a mutual glaring contradiction. Why? The question burned in his mind. Why would someone who can afford to buy an entire cart of groceries and clearly has the financial resources to purchase the entire store resort to concealing a $15 bottle of shampoo? Was it a bizarre personal challenge? A psychological tick? MJ was busy sliding the receipt into a small zippered compartment of his wallet, handling the black card with the same casual ease he might handle a subway token. He began to organize the grocery bags, his attention entirely focused on logistics. Just as he finished loading the last bag of dry goods, his phone, which he had placed on the counter, vibrated with an incoming call. The name displayed on the screen was simply Pastor Thomas. MJ held up a finger to Kevin, excusing himself momentarily, and answered. He pulled the phone close to his ear, dropping his voice to a level that was intended to be private, but which, due to Ethan's close proximity, was perfectly audible. "Hello, Pastor." "Yes, I'm at Daily Deals now. Just finished the first run." Ethan froze, every muscle in his neck straining to catch the dialogue. A pastor? This further complicated the profile. The total for this cart was just under $500. All essentials, non-perishables. Heavy on the proteins and hygiene products. Exactly what we discussed for the immediate distribution. MJ paused, listening to the voice on the other end, his brow furrowed in concentration. Then, he spoke the words that utterly detonated Ethan's entire worldview. No, that's just the start. I'm not worried about the budget, Pastor. We have the full $50,000 remaining to spend. I'm coordinating with 3 other volunteers at 2 different locations right now. We need to maximize the stock we can get before the end of the day. I want to clear out the bulk goods section if we can, focusing on families hit by the last round of layoffs. The number hung in the stale. Fluorescent air, $50,000. Authorized and ready to be spent right here at Daily Deals. Not for personal consumption, but for charitable distribution. The sheer scale of the operation rendered the theft of a single bottle of shampoo utterly meaningless, absurd even. Ethan felt a sudden, dizzying wave of cold realization. He hadn't been watching a thief. He had been profiling a philanthropist, a coordinator of massive organized relief. He had reduced a man mobilizing thousands of dollars for his community to a mere stereotype based on a hoodie and a backpack. He looked at the printed photos in his pocket, now feeling like warrants for his own professional stupidity. The accusation of the stolen shampoo, an item valued less than the tip MJ might leave a delivery driver, was a grotesque, microscopic insult against the backdrop of the $50,000 mission. MJ concluded his call, his tone professional and focused. "Understood, Pastor. I'll keep you updated. Next, I need to find the management and arrange for a bulk order. I'll check in soon." He hung up, placed the phone down, and with a casual, easy movement, turned around to address the store. His eyes swept past Kevin and landed finally directly on Ethan, who was still hiding in plain sight. MJ's expression was neutral but knowing. He had clearly sensed the intense scrutiny and proximity. He didn't acknowledge the awkward silence or the obvious tension. He simply walked toward Ethan, extending a clean, confident hand. "Excuse me, sir. You look like the manager. I need to talk to you about the rest of the budget. I was just on the phone with Pastor Thomas. My name is Marcus Jones. I think we're about to buy you out of all your canned goods." Ethan stared at the outstretched hand, and he had mentally convicted of theft less than 5 minutes ago, and felt a sickening drop in his stomach. The confrontation he had planned was now a horrifying public display of his own prejudice. He had never been so wrong in his life. Ethan's hand remained stiffly at his side, unable to meet Marcus M.J. Jones's outstretched gesture. The metallic weight of the black card, the casual mention of the $50,000 budget, and the sudden shift from thief to client had created a psychological paralysis. He felt the blood rush from his face, leaving a residue of shame on his skin. MJ, sensing the manager's internal turmoil, slowly lowered his hand, his expression softening slightly. "I apologize if I'm catching you at a bad time," he said, his tone still perfectly polite and professional. "I know a bulk purchase like this usually requires a heads up, but we just finalized the funding details this morning." Ethan finally managed to speak, his voice thin and dry. "Mr. Jones, Marcus, no, it's fine. I'm Ethan Riley, shift manager. You certainly have our attention. $50,000, you said? Give or take a few hundred from this initial run," MJ confirmed, gesturing to his loaded cart. "It's for the Winter Warmth Drive, a new initiative by the Thomas Family Foundation, working with several local churches. We're targeting immediate assistance for families who have been displaced or hit hardest by job losses in the last quarter. We need a massive inventory of essentials by the end of the week." The explanation was lucid, detailed, and utterly convincing. It left a painful, gaping hole in Ethan's carefully constructed profile. He forced himself to maintain eye contact, battling the urge to reach into his pocket and rip up the incriminating stills he'd printed. That's incredible," Ethan stammered, scrambling to recover his composure. "So you'll be buying goods in stages?" "Exactly. And that brings me to the point of my earlier, shall we say, efficiency in aisle 5, MJ said, a slight knowing curve to his lips. He had noticed the intense scrutiny. Ethan flinched. He hadn't expected the confrontation to come from the suspect himself. MJ continued, his voice dropping slightly, leaning in as if sharing a trade secret. "I saw you following me, Ethan. It happens. Frankly, I'm used to it. But let me tell you why I was moving so quickly and why I used my backpack." He paused, glancing at the backpack on the floor. Ethan's stomach clenched. This was the moment of truth, the confession of the concealed items. "Look, when we do these big drives, we have 2 types of needs. Bulk goods for the Foundation's distribution centers and personal care kits for direct, immediate distribution to individuals and people experiencing homelessness we meet on the street. Right now, today," MJ bent down and picked up the backpack. He unzipped the main compartment, revealing the large bags of bulk rice and beans he'd just purchased. Then, he opened a smaller side zipper, the exact zipper where Ethan had seen the ibuprofen disappear. "The Foundation only authorizes the bulk purchase on the black card," MJ explained. "The small personal items, the $15 shampoo, the good quality deodorant, the extra strength pain relievers, those are separate. That's my personal contribution. I prefer to hand out these high quality items myself because people who are struggling deserve a bit of dignity and something that actually works. I keep them in my bag so they don't get mixed up with the massive institutional haul, and frankly, so they aren't accidentally scanned and charged to the Foundation's account. That's the reason for the quick movements and the concealment. It's a private donation. Kept separate from the official inventory, MJ pulled out the very bottle of shampoo Ethan had watched him steal. It had a small, handwritten tag tied to its neck with a rubber band. Gift, MJ. The sight of the handwritten tag. The simple, quiet act of using his own money to buy the best items for those in need utterly crushed Ethan's pride and prejudice. It was a revelation of profound human decency. MJ hadn't been a thief. He had been a meticulous, large-scale buyer and a discreet personal benefactor, all at once. The phone call you overheard with Pastor Thomas, that was about coordinating the bulk purchases, MJ finished, zipping the bag closed. But I always ensure my personal gifts are sorted first. I apologize if my process looked suspicious. The last sentence was delivered with a faint, wry smile, a quiet acknowledgement of Ethan's profiling without ever needing to use the word. Ethan could only manage a slow shake of his head, his gaze dropping to the floor. The $50,000 budget was the context, the black card was the proof, but the gift MJ tag was the final devastating blow to his assumptions. The simple act of kindness was no smokescreen. It was the truth. "No, Marcus, Ethan finally managed to say, meeting his eye with genuine contrition. My process was wrong. I apologize terribly. I thought you were stealing those small items. MJ just nodded, accepting the apology without melodrama. I get it, but let's focus on the mission now, Ethan. I need a manager who knows the stock and the neighborhood. I have $49,512 left to spend. You look like you could use a purpose right now. Are you ready to help me pay for everyone? The weight of the $50,000 budget and Marcus Jones's direct, challenging question, are you ready to help me pay for everyone, hung heavy in the air. For Ethan, it wasn't just a business proposal. It was a sudden, seismic opportunity for moral redemption. He had just judged this man as a petty criminal and was now being offered a chance to partner with him in a massive act of community generosity. Ethan took a deep, steadying breath, the scent of fresh coffee from a nearby kiosk helping to ground him. He could feel the eyes of Kevin the cashier on them, but his focus was entirely on MJ. Marcus, Ethan began, his voice firmer now, stripped of its earlier defensiveness. I am genuinely sorry for my assumptions. It was completely unprofessional, and frankly, it was based on prejudice. You were right to assume I was following you. MJ held up a hand, cutting off the self-flagellation. Ethan, I appreciate the honesty, but let's not dwell on the rearview mirror. I don't have time for apologies right now, and you don't have time for guilt. I have a deadline, and I need help. You know this store better than anyone. You know the best deals, the stock cycles, and frankly, you know the people who shop here. MJ's directness was a relief. He wasn't demanding groveling. He was demanding action. He was offering a path to turn the shame into service. So here's the deal, MJ continued, leaning against the counter. I need bulk. But Pastor Thomas stressed that we shouldn't just buy cheap items. We need things that give people dignity. High-quality essentials. I need someone who can instantly tell me, what's your best deal on long shelf life protein? Where are you hiding the discounted winter blankets? Who is the contact for a possible special bulk order on baby formula? Ethan felt a spark of professional pride ignite, a familiar feeling replacing the cold emptiness of shame. This was his territory. This was what he was good at, logistics, inventory, and maximizing value. We can do this, Ethan said, pushing his embarrassment aside. Our inventory is solid right now. Protein, we have a large shipment of canned tuna and chicken in the back, reduced for quick sale. Blankets, we usually clear out the end-of-season stock near the pharmacy. I know the inventory codes and the manager's override to get you a better bulk discount than anyone else in the district. He grabbed a clipboard and a pen from the customer service desk. The transformation was instant. The suspicious, overworked shift manager was replaced by the focused, strategic coordinator. We need to work fast. Forget the registers for now. We need to do a complete inventory assessment. You said you're targeting families who need the most help. I know a family, recent refugees, moved in 3 weeks ago. They came in yesterday looking for a heavy-duty coat for their youngest. We didn't have any. They're right here in the neighborhood. They're a perfect place to start. Ethan's suggestion wasn't just professional advice. It was a small personal offering. By sharing knowledge of a truly needy family, he was proving his sincerity and his connection to the community he had failed to serve earlier. MJ's eyes lit up with approval. Perfect. That's exactly the kind of local insight we need. Let's start the purchasing process with dignity and with names, not just numbers. MJ extended his hand again. This time, Ethan met it. The handshake was firm, a silent agreement that the past was forgiven and the future was about the mission. Okay, Marcus, consider me your personal logistics manager. We're going to empty your budget and fill up this community. Let's go hit the back room and see what we can load onto that black card. The redemption had begun, not with a ceremonial speech or a tearful confession, but with the simple, urgent demand for work. Ethan, putting his notepad on the counter, realized he was no longer a loss prevention specialist. He was a facilitator of generosity, and for the first time in a long time, he felt genuinely useful. Ethan, energized by his new immediate purpose, led MJ away from the checkout lanes toward the back of the store. As they walked, Ethan pointed out key areas and explained the store's chaotic inventory system, information usually reserved for management. He was a man suddenly liberated from the suffocating constraint of suspicion, now free to apply his knowledge for a positive outcome. So, we need to focus on high-impact items, Ethan explained, clicking his pen methodically. Our best deal right now isn't on the shelves. It's a forgotten pallet of heavy-duty thermal socks and gloves that were supposed to be shipped back last week. Perfect for the winter warmth theme. MJ kept pace, nodding thoughtfully. Excellent, Ethan. That's the kind of knowledge I can't get from a spreadsheet. Look, I'm serious about what I said earlier. They stopped momentarily near the swinging doors to the stockroom. The fluorescent light reflected in MJ's eyes, giving his gaze an intense focus. I noticed you. Not just the following, but the look in your eyes. You're stressed, you're overworked, and you carry a heavy burden of looking out for this store. I see that kind of dedication. But the dedication you showed to loss prevention could be channeled into something far more rewarding. Ethan shifted his weight uncomfortably. He knew where this was going. Let's be honest, MJ continued, his voice low and candid. You thought I was stealing, I get it. It's what your environment has trained you to do, but you hesitated. When the old lady stumbled, you were conflicted. When you saw the $487 purchase, you froze. You didn't immediately activate security or yell. You stood down, giving me a chance to explain myself. MJ reached out and placed a hand lightly on Ethan's shoulder, a gesture of genuine, non-judgmental respect. That's the difference between a good clerk and a good man. Ethan, you hesitated because there's a part of you that wanted to be wrong, and that is exactly why I need you. Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. No one at Daily Deals had ever paid attention to his internal conflict. They only cared about the bottom line. MJ saw his shame and recognized it as a potential strength. The Thomas Family Foundation is growing rapidly, but we're a small team. I handle logistics and finance. We need a distribution coordinator, someone who can manage inventory, maximize bulk purchases, track local needs, and most importantly, someone who knows the actual families in this immediate community. MJ paused, letting the weight of the offer settle. I'm not asking you to quit your job right now, but I need you to lead this purchasing drive for the next 2 days. Use your manager privileges. Get us the absolute best bulk rates. Over the next 48 hours, we are going to spend that remaining $49,512 right here in this store. I'll pay you a consulting fee, a good one, out of the Foundation's administrative funds for your time. He then pulled out a plain white business card from his wallet, distinct from the sleek black card. It listed his name, title, Director of Community Outreach, and the Foundation's logo. After this is done, if you're interested, we can talk about a full-time position. You could leave the suspicion and the surveillance behind, and instead manage the flow of genuine hope directly into the hands of the people who need it. Ethan stared at the card, his mind reeling. A full-time job, doing good, with a man who had seen him at his worst and decided he was worthy of trust. It was a lifeline out of the dreary, cynical routine he had known for 7 years. He looked up at MJ, his eyes finally clearing of doubt. Marcus, I can't take a consulting fee for doing what I should have been doing all along, but I will coordinate this purchase for you. I'll use every discount, every trick, every managerial override I know to make sure that $50,000 goes as far as possible. Good, MJ said, a wide, genuine smile finally breaking through his composed demeanor. That's the spirit. Now about that pallet of thermal socks. Ethan turned toward the stockroom doors, his clipboard ready. The job of a shift manager was still technically his, but in his heart he had just resigned and accepted a new, far more important position. The redemption was now fully underway, trading the anxiety of preventing loss for the reward of facilitating gain. Ethan pushed through the heavy stockroom doors, the loud thud echoing the definitive choice he had just made. He was no longer working for Daily Deals. He was strategically exploiting its inventory with Daily Deals manager knowledge. He was operating on behalf of Marcus Jones, using the same institutional knowledge he once used to catch thieves to now facilitate generosity. He turned to MJ, a new intensity hardening his gaze. Forget the slow walk, Marcus. We're working against the clock if we want to secure the best bulk pricing before our inventory system auto-updates tonight. Lead the way, MJ replied, pulling out his phone to contact his 3 other distribution points, ensuring they didn't overlap their purchases across the city. Ethan navigated the narrow canyon-like aisles of the stockroom, the air thick with the smell of cardboard and industrial cleaning supplies. He pointed to a high shelf. See that pallet? It's marked for return because it was a missed shipment. Heavy-duty, long-lasting blankets, the good synthetic kind. They're priced at $15 each in the system, but since they're a missed shipment, I can override the barcode and apply a 40% bulk discount for the entire pallet. MJ whistled softly. That's about an extra $1,000 worth of blankets for the Foundation. That's why I need you. Ethan didn't stop to bask in the compliment. He was on a mission. He grabbed a forklift key and quickly maneuvered the heavy machinery to retrieve the pallet. As he worked, he spoke rapidly, outlining the rest of his strategy. Next, we hit the pasta and rice. I know the inventory cycle. We have 500-pound bags of jasmine rice coming in tomorrow, but the old stock, which is still perfectly good, is discounted heavily today. We clear that old stock and I can give you the deep clearance rate, effectively moving a couple of $1,000s off your budget, which we can then funnel into higher cost needs like baby formula or cold medicine. He stopped the forklift and looked directly at MJ. This means you'll be buying goods that have been sitting here for a while. They're safe, but they're not the newest. Are you okay with that? Ethan, my purpose is to fill empty shelves and empty pantries, Not win a consumer awards show, MJ stated firmly. Value and longevity are our priorities. I trust your judgment completely. You know the store, you know the stock. Use your knowledge to leverage every single dollar. The explicit trust was empowering. Ethan had always been viewed as a cog in the retail machine, easily replaceable. Now, his institutional knowledge was suddenly valuable, a tool for radical good. They spent the next hour working with intense, focused efficiency. Ethan would check his handheld inventory device, confirm the oldest stock location, apply the managerial, override with a few practiced keystrokes, and MJ would photograph the transaction receipts for the foundation's records. The biggest challenge wasn't the pricing, it was the emotional weight of their shared knowledge of the local community. As they finalized the purchase of high-impact children's goods, MJ asked, "Tell me about that family you mentioned, the refugees. What do they need most urgently?" Ethan leaned against a stack of canned vegetables, his energy temporarily draining. The Al-Jamil family. They're from Syria, just arrived. They live 2 blocks down in a small apartment. They have 3 kids, the youngest is 4. The little one only has a light jacket. His parents were looking at our cheap heating pads, desperate to keep him warm. They need coats, blankets, and school supplies, the kind of things the standard relief boxes often overlook. Then that is where we start the delivery, MJ decided, pulling out his phone. I'm going to contact my driver. We will prioritize their needs. We'll start delivering to the individual families you know, the ones who won't ask for help, before we send the bulk goods to the church. By the time the initial bulk purchases were staged near the back door, a dizzying mountain of rice, beans, blankets, and canned meats. The total on the black card had dwindled by nearly $18,000. Ethan had saved the foundation over $3,000 through aggressive bulk and clearance overrides. He looked at the huge pile of goods, then at the single massive transaction receipt signed by MJ. He had started the day obsessed with preventing the loss of $27, and he was ending it having facilitated the expenditure of $18,000 for local relief. Ethan stood tall, the weight of the store's cynicism finally lifting from his shoulders. He had made his choice. He had used his power, his knowledge, and his internal conflict to choose kindness over prejudice. The silent confrontation was over, and the loud, organized mission had begun. The initial bulk acquisition completed, Ethan and MJ took a brief break in the small staff lounge, a place Ethan usually retreated to for 5 minutes of frantic solitude. Now it was a war room. The remaining budget stood at approximately $31,500, and the urgency had shifted from stocking basic survival items to acquiring specialized high-impact goods. We've secured the tonnage, MJ said, reviewing the initial receipts. You saved us 17% on those bulk items, Ethan. That's enough to buy 3 weeks of formula for several families. Seriously, I'm impressed. Ethan accepted the compliment with a modest nod. I just knew where the store was bleeding inventory. Now we hit the next phase, dignity items and specific needs. We need to think like a struggling family, not a distributor. They re-entered the main shopping floor, but this time, the entire dynamic was reversed. Ethan wasn't shadowing MJ. He was guiding him, lecturing him on maximizing charity impact. Look at the spices, Ethan instructed, leading MJ down a less-traveled aisle. Everyone stocks rice and beans, but no one stocks flavor. Canned food without seasoning is demoralizing. We need a pallet of salt, pepper, garlic powder, and oregano. These are small items, but they transform a donation box into a meal. MJ scribbled notes furiously. That's a perspective I hadn't considered. We usually just stick to the staples. And footwear, Ethan continued, moving rapidly toward the limited shoe section. Kids can't wear oversized clothes, but they absolutely cannot wear small shoes. We need a range of robust waterproof boots. No need to buy the top-shelf athletic brands, but nothing flimsy either. They need to last through the winter. As they navigated the aisles, a strange rhythm developed. Ethan, the seasoned retailer, pointed out the best deals and the most practical items. MJ, the compassionate director, provided the moral compass, and the bigger picture, always asking, will this restore dignity? At the school supply section, MJ hesitated at the sight of 2 different grades of backpack. One was a cheap nylon pack for $5.99, the other, a durable padded model for $24.99. We can get 5 times as many of the cheap ones, MJ reasoned. Ethan shook his head. The cheap ones will rip by Thanksgiving. The kid will be embarrassed. The nice one, the durable one, that's a message. It says, you are worth investing in. Buy the better one, Marcus. It's a message of hope, not just a holding container. MJ smiled. placing the higher quality packs in the cart. Lesson learned. It's not about volume, it's about respect. The collaboration was a constant real-time education for Ethan. He saw the store, his second home, through completely different eyes. The shelves he once guarded with paranoia were now seen as resources to be leveraged for human well-being. He was using his best inventory secrets to defeat poverty, not to defeat petty crime. As they finalized a large purchase of diapers and baby formula, items notorious for being both essential and expensive, Ethan felt a surge of genuine warmth. He had tracked these items relentlessly because they were frequently stolen. Now, he was deliberately emptying the shelves, knowing every single can and box was going directly to a struggling parent. They approached the register again, not with the tension of potential confrontation, but with the collaborative confidence of partners. The new total, including the specific dignity items, was over $12,000. The sight of MJ running the black card multiple times, confidently draining the massive charitable fund, no longer triggered Ethan's alarm bells. It signaled momentum, purpose, and good work. While the second transaction was processing, MJ turned to Ethan. "You've completely changed my view of this place. I came in here expecting a standard business transaction, and I found a dedicated partner. But now, tell me about the small items you were hiding in your backpack." Ethan grinned, recognizing the playful callback to his earlier prejudice. MJ was giving him another chance to clarify the motive behind the earlier concealment. "Those," Ethan said, pulling out a small high-end travel hygiene kit he had bought and concealed earlier in his own personal bag, a direct mirror of MJ's earlier action. "This one is for the Al-Jamil father. He was looking for a razor yesterday. I knew his budget wouldn't allow for a good one. Dignity items, right?" MJ laughed, a hearty, genuine sound that echoed through the nearly empty aisle. "Absolutely right. See, Ethan, we're more alike than either of us cared to admit this morning." The shared laughter sealed their bond, acknowledging the mutual understanding that had transcended the initial damaging snap judgment. The new shopping spree was a tour de force of strategic compassion, solidifying Ethan's commitment to this new, rewarding mission. The shopping spree had wound down, leaving a temporary gaping hole on several key shelves and a mountain of organized, labeled goods stacked neatly in the loading bay. The remainder of the $50,000 budget was safely allocated to be spent the next day on the specialized bulk items that Ethan had arranged through his store contacts. Exhausted but exhilarated, Ethan and MJ were now sitting on an overturned pallet in the cool, isolated quiet of the stockroom, sipping lukewarm vending machine coffee. The mission had created a shared foxhole, dissolving the manager-suspect dynamic entirely. The silence was companionable, but Ethan knew there was one crucial, unspoken piece of business remaining. He placed his styrofoam cup down and looked directly at MJ. "Marcus," he started, his voice hushed but firm, "we've spent the whole afternoon working together, and it's been the most rewarding day I've had here in years. But I need to go back to the beginning. I need to address what happened when you first walked in." MJ nodded slowly, his expression serious. "Go ahead, Ethan." "When you walked in with that hood and that backpack, I saw a statistic. I saw the thief who hit us last month. I didn't see Marcus Jones, the director of community outreach. I profiled you, based entirely on your appearance and my own worst, most cynical assumptions." Ethan paused, running a hand over his tired eyes. "I even printed the photos of you concealing those items. I was ready to call the police and have you arrested over a bottle of shampoo you were buying as a personal gift." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the two small, creased black and white stills, MJ slipping the items into his bag. He held them out. "I was wrong. I was prejudiced, and I am genuinely sorry. This store, this job, it taught me to suspect everyone, but that's no excuse for my behavior. I apologize." MJ didn't take the photos. He simply looked at them, then back at Ethan, his gaze empathetic, not accusatory. "I told you I get it, Ethan, and I do," MJ said softly. "You're operating on data, on fear, and on the pressure to protect your job. But those assumptions, they're just part of the American experience for someone like me." MJ took a sip of his coffee. "I grew up in the same kind of neighborhood this store serves, maybe a little tougher. I was that kid with the hoodie and the backpack. Except back then, I was just trying to get through the day. My parents worked 3 jobs. I was on free lunch and wearing hand-me-downs." He looked at the empty space where the bulk food had been. "I got into college on a scholarship. I went into medicine, but then I changed paths to the foundation work because I realized I could help more people by providing resources than by patching up wounds. But you know what? No matter how many degrees I earn or how many dollars I spend on charity, when I walk into a store like this, I can still see that look, your look, in the manager's eyes. MJ reached out and gently took the 2 stills from Ethan's hand, then slowly tore them in half, then into quarters, dropping the pieces into the empty cup. I didn't need the arrest, and I didn't need the lecture. I needed the person who hesitated, MJ concluded. I needed the guy who, despite all the training and all the cynicism, still paused when a kind moment happened. That pause is what made me think, this guy can still be reached. Your apology is accepted, Ethan. Not because you said the words, but because you spent the last 4 hours actively proving them to be true by channeling your best into this mission. He smiled, a deep, genuine expression that finally put the uncomfortable shadow of the morning behind them. Now, let's talk logistics. My foundation driver is due here in 30 minutes. We've got the first family on the list, the Al-Jamil family, waiting for those coats and dignity kits. Ethan pushed himself up, feeling lighter than he had in years. The shame was gone, replaced by a quiet, fierce dedication to his new partner and their shared purpose. He had been given a second chance, not to be a better employee, but to be a better man, and he was ready to take it. The loading bay of daily deals was a hive of controlled activity. MJ's driver, a cheerful, muscular man named Tony, had arrived with a large box truck. Under Ethan's precise direction, the massive pile of bulk goods, rice, canned protein, blankets, and school supplies was being systematically loaded. Ethan, shedding his managerial uniform for a pair of work gloves, directed the forklift and ensured every box was accounted for and secured. Their first stop was the personal delivery to the Al-Jamil family. MJ had insisted on keeping these small, high-impact deliveries discreet and personal, far from the public eye. Ethan drove his own beat-up sedan, following Tony's truck to the nearby apartment building. The delivery to the Al-Jamil family was profound. The 4-year-old's face lit up when he was handed a durable, warm coat and a sturdy backpack full of new crayons. The father, seeing the high-quality razor and shaving cream, looked at MJ with a gratitude that transcended language. For Ethan, witnessing the direct, immediate impact of his work was infinitely more satisfying than balancing a store register. However, during this first small delivery, the world noticed. As MJ and Ethan carried boxes up the steps, a woman named Vanessa, a local social media influencer known for documenting community life and often its controversies, was filming a piece on the neighborhood's lack of winter assistance programs. She spotted the unexpected activity. She raised her phone, zoomed in, and began live streaming. Look at this, folks. Right here in the neighborhood. A massive donation is being delivered. I recognize the manager of Daily Deals, Ethan Riley, helping load the boxes. That's a huge truck. Is this the store finally stepping up? The live stream quickly gained traction. People were initially heartened. Daily Deals finally doing something good. The video captured Ethan and MJ working in seamless coordination, the young black man in the expensive coat coordinating the efforts, and the young white manager doing the heavy lifting and directing the logistics. It was a potent visual of cross-racial partnership and community support. But the moment of public goodwill was fleeting. One of Ethan's disgruntled former subordinates, a cashier named Lisa who harbored a long-standing jealousy of Ethan's position, saw the video. She quickly recognized the young man with the black card and the backpack, the same individual. Ethan had been obsessively tracking and profiling. Earlier that morning, Lisa immediately jumped onto the live stream's comment section, typing furiously, "Lisa retail gossip, don't be fooled." That manager, Ethan Riley, spent the entire morning stalking that guy, Marcus Jones, because he thought he was stealing. He was ready to call the cops on him right at the register over a bottle of shampoo. I watched him print the security stills. He only started helping because the guy pulled out a black card and was about to spend $50K. This is a total cover-up for racial profiling. The comment hit the livestream like an electrical shock. The narrative instantly flipped from inspiring community partnership to stark racial injustice and corporate damage control. Vanessa, the influencer, immediately spotted the incendiary comment and seized on the new angle, aiming her phone camera directly at Ethan as he emerged from the apartment building. "Mr. Riley," she called out, thrusting her phone and microphone toward him. "Is it true you were profiling this generous donor this morning? Did you suspect him of shoplifting before he revealed his identity and his enormous budget?" Ethan froze, hit by the sudden harsh glare of public scrutiny. He could feel the familiar cold knot of professional anxiety return, amplified 1,000 times by the public spotlight. The shame he had privately processed with MJ was now a viral public accusation. MJ, walking out moments later, immediately stepped in front of Ethan. He looked directly at the camera. "Stop. This is a private delivery for a family in need. And yes, I am aware of the allegations being made. Ethan and I had a misunderstanding this morning based on assumptions that happen far too often in America. But let me be clear, Ethan apologized to me personally, genuinely, and immediately. More importantly, he chose to turn that mistake into action. He spent the last 4 hours using his knowledge to maximize help for this community. He chose redemption over pride. We are partners in this mission. If you want a story, focus on the $50,000 we are spending on people who are cold and hungry, not on a 5-minute misunderstanding we have already moved past. MJ's powerful, direct statement temporarily halted the media frenzy, but the damage was done. The story was no longer just about generosity. It was about prejudice, privilege, and the painful path to atonement. Ethan, watching the drama unfold, knew this public exposure, despite MJ's defense, was going to cost him his job at Daily Deals. The viral video and the damning comment from Lisa spread through the local community, reaching the corporate office of Daily Deals within the hour. The story, now titled by local news outlets as Prejudice or Partner, manager fired after profiling $50K. Donor painted a picture of a company desperate to cover up a racial profiling incident with forced charity. Ethan was immediately pulled from the loading bay. His store manager, Mr. Harrison, a man whose sole purpose in life was avoiding corporate scrutiny, met him in the office, his face a mask of panic and disappointment. "Ethan, what were you thinking?" Mr. Harrison hissed, gesturing wildly at the computer screen showing the escalating comments on the video. "Corporate HR called me 5 minutes ago. This is a PR nightmare. We can't afford this kind of public exposure, especially with the talk about your past tendencies." Mr. Harrison didn't need to say the word profiling. The implication was clear. Despite the massive positive publicity generated by the $50,000 donation, the company was fixated on the initial negative optics. "I followed protocol based on past theft patterns, Mr. Harrison, but I made a mistake. And I immediately corrected it," Ethan argued, standing tall. "I'm the reason that store is about to clear $50,000 in bulk sales. I saved the foundation thousands of dollars through discounts. That should be the story." "The story is the accusation, Ethan, not the sales," Harrison spat back. "As of this minute, you are placed on indefinite administrative leave pending a full HR review. You are to return your keys and leave the property immediately. Don't talk to the media. Don't talk to anyone." The dismissal was swift, brutal, and utterly predictable. The company valued its image more than Ethan's 7 years of dedicated service or his sudden dramatic change of heart. He walked out of the office, his apron and name tag surrendered, feeling a dull ache of finality. He had lost the job that defined him. He found MJ waiting for him discreetly by the employee exit. MJ had monitored the situation, anticipating the corporate response. "I heard the shouting," MJ said, his face etched with sympathy. "I am truly sorry, Ethan. That's garbage. You shouldn't have paid for my mistake with your job. It wasn't your mistake, Marcus. It was mine," Ethan corrected, his voice flat. "They just needed an easy scapegoat for a problem that runs deeper than my shift." "It's over." MJ leaned against the brick wall, pulling out the foundation's business card once more. "No, it's not over. It's a transition. I meant what I said about needing a distribution coordinator, Ethan. The foundation has secured 3 massive grants this quarter. We need someone with your logistical genius, someone who knows inventory management, someone who knows how to stretch a dollar and cut through corporate red tape. And honestly, we need someone who understands the complexity of redemption." He looked Ethan straight in the eye. "I saw your integrity today. You could have just let me buy the goods and walked away, but you didn't. You apologized, you collaborated, and you prioritized the most vulnerable families. You have the exact blend of skills and heart that we require. The pay is competitive. The benefits are better than what Daily Deals offered. And your job description is simple. Convert resources into hope." Ethan stood there, jobless, publicly humiliated, yet facing the most profound opportunity of his life. He had been fired for his prejudice, but he was being hired for his repentance. The cynical retail manager was dead, and a purpose-driven coordinator was being born. He took the business card from MJ, the smooth matte paper feeling solid and real in his hand. He looked back at the cold, anonymous loading dock of Daily Deals, then forward at MJ's earnest, expectant face. "Okay, Marcus," Ethan said, a slow, determined smile finally breaking through his fatigue. "You've got a coordinator. Let's finish spending that money, and let's start with that new shipment of rice coming in tomorrow morning." The consequence was severe, but the opportunity was transformational. Ethan had traded a cynical cage for an open path to redemption. 2 days later, the viral storm had subsided slightly, replaced by a lingering local buzz. Ethan Riley, no longer wearing the blue vest of a shift manager, stood in the parking lot of Daily Deals. He was wearing a simple dark jacket and a confident, determined expression. He was here to finish the job he started, the job of spending the remaining $31,500. He was not an employee now. He was a client, a partner, and most importantly, the distribution coordinator for the Thomas Family Foundation. MJ was already there, organizing the final logistics for the major bulk transfer. He greeted Ethan with a casual, respectful nod, fully cementing their new professional dynamic. "Morning, Coordinator Riley," MJ said, a genuine smile in his eyes. "Our driver is ready, the stockroom is prepped, and I've secured the managerial override codes through Mr. Harrison's panicked assistant." "He didn't want to lose the final $30,000 sale." Ethan chuckled, feeling a profound sense of irony. His dismissal had secured the final massive transaction. "Good. We're going to execute the final phase. The rice, the specialized formula, and the high-grade cold weather gear I arranged from your wholesaler. Let's clean them out." The work that followed was a masterclass in organized compassion. Ethan navigated the stockroom and the purchasing system with renewed purpose. He was ruthless in negotiating the best price for MJ, demanding the deepest bulk discounts. His attention to detail, once focused on policing tiny thefts, was now devoted entirely to maximizing every charitable dollar. But the most significant change was not in his efficiency, it was in his gaze. As they worked, loading the final heavy boxes onto the truck, an older woman walked by, pulling a cart laden with discounted, bruised vegetables. It was Florence, the woman MJ had helped earlier. She looked tired and frail. In his previous life, Ethan would have immediately calculated the likelihood of her attempting to slip a small item into her oversized purse, a reflex of cynicism. Now Ethan stopped immediately. "Marcus, wait a second." He walked over to Florence, not with the clipped step of a manager, but with the open posture of a neighbor. "Florence, good morning. Are you doing all right this week?" She recognized him and smiled weakly. "Oh, Ethan dear, I'm just trying to make the retirement money stretch. Winter is so expensive." Ethan didn't hesitate. He knew exactly what to do with his new authority. "Florence, the foundation is running a special relief drive this week. We have high-quality, long-lasting essentials. I'd like to give you a small care package from the drive. Compliments of Marcus and the Thomas Foundation." He directed her toward the distribution piles and loaded her cart with items that weren't cheap or bruised. A large bag of the high-grade rice, a few cans of the expensive tuna, and a warm, brand-new blanket from the misshipment pallet. Florence's eyes welled up. "Oh my goodness, Ethan, I can't possibly—" "You can and you must," Ethan insisted gently. "It's a gift and it's meant for people who deserve dignity. Please accept it." As she pushed her now full cart toward the exit. Smiling and waving, Ethan walked back to MJ, who had watched the entire exchange silently. "That," MJ said, picking up a heavy box, "was the point of the whole exercise. You didn't see a potential shoplifter. You saw a neighbor in need. You used the resources we secured to make a direct personal impact." Ethan felt a deep, profound satisfaction. He had returned to the very ground zero of his mistake, the parking lot of the store that fired him, and he had chosen to administer kindness, not suspicion. He wasn't just coordinating inventory anymore. He was facilitating genuine personal hope. The truck was finally full, the back door secured. The $50,000 budget, carefully managed and strategically spent, was now entirely invested in the community. Ethan looked at the empty stockroom racks he helped clear and felt no sense of loss, only gain. He was ready for the next phase, a full-time life dedicated to service. The week concluded with the final expenditure of the Thomas Family Foundation's budget. Ethan, now officially separated from Daily Deals, oversaw the transfer of the last pallet, a massive delivery of specialized infant formula secured at a discounted rate he'd aggressively negotiated just hours before his firing. Ethan sat in the small, sparsely furnished apartment he shared with a roommate, the scent of fresh rain drifting in through the open window. He was at his rickety desk, not filling out job applications, but drafting a final formal letter to Mr. Harrison, the store manager. He didn't need the severance package. The compensation for his 2 days of consulting with MJ's foundation had already surpassed his weekly salary at Daily Deals. More importantly, he didn't need the guilt. The letter was brief and professional, but carried a tone of quiet finality. "Dear Mr. Harrison, please accept this as my formal, immediate resignation from my position as shift manager. While I understand and accept the reasons for my administrative leave, my professional focus has irrevocably shifted. I regret the initial lapse in judgment that led to the incident with Marcus Jones. However, I do not regret the decision to collaborate with him. The store's loss of $50,000 in inventory was more than compensated by the $3,000 I saved the foundation and the immeasurable value added to this community. My value is no longer measured in loss prevention metrics, but in the successful allocation of resources for good. I have accepted the full-time position as distribution coordinator for the Thomas Family Foundation. I wish Daily Deals success. Sincerely, Ethan Riley." He printed the letter, folded it carefully and placed it in an envelope. As he sealed it, he realized he wasn't mourning the loss of his old job. He was celebrating the liberation from his old self. Marcus Jones walked in moments later, carrying a takeout container of decent Chinese food. A celebratory dinner. Everything good? MJ asked, noticing the envelope. Done, Ethan confirmed, tapping the letter. Officially a free agent, ready to start full-time on Monday. They sat down to eat, their conversation immediately pivoting to logistics, scheduling food bank drop-offs, coordinating volunteer teams, and planning the next fundraising drive. The energy was electric, focused, and positive. You know, I ran the numbers again, MJ mused, picking up a piece of rice. The initial budget was $50,000 after you worked your magic. We got nearly $54,000 worth of goods out of daily deals. That's a 7% efficiency rate. Thanks to your insider knowledge, Ethan smiled. A few months ago, I would have measured success by catching the guy who tried to steal a $3 energy drink. Now, success is a 7% increase in our impact. The cost of that shampoo was the cheapest lesson I've ever learned. Ethan continued, his voice low and thoughtful. It cost me my old job, my old cynical perspective, and my shame. But in exchange, it gave me a career, a purpose, and a chance to look at every person who walks into a store or walks down the street, not as a risk, but as a potential human being with a story. MJ nodded slowly. That's the core of it, Ethan. The $50,000 we spent was just money. The empathy we gained, the trust we built, and the change you made in yourself. That's what's truly invaluable. He stood up, walking toward the window. The streetlights of their neighborhood cast a warm, reassuring glow. The work starts now, Ethan. The winter's getting colder, and our stock is about to run out. Are you ready to see this through? Ethan walked over to join him, looking out at the city, a city full of potential customers, potential neighbors, and potential people in need. I'm ready. Marcus, Ethan said, placing a hand on the window frame. The $50,000 surprise wasn't for the community. It was for me. The story ends with Ethan looking forward, his hands empty of security footage and full of purpose. Having chosen the immense rewarding cost of empathy over the cheap price of suspicion,